The architecture, fashion, and open artistic collaboration that was taking place in the early 1900s in Shanghai was a signature of the new urban class that was growing during the times, and it did become known as Hi-Pi. The term Hi-Pi literally translates to Shanghai style, and it was coined by a group of Beijing writers in 1920. At first, the expression was a negative slur, referring to a type of selling out, catering to the Western tourism and sensibilities. But Shanghai society quickly took ownership of the term. They knew there was something very different happening here, and that it was alive, innovative, inclusive, and really special.
My name is Sam Braybon, and I'm the manager of Bespoke Shanghai. Well, we're huge fans of Shanghai's history, and we specialize in showing off the best of Shanghai's architecture, especially things from the 20s and 30s related to the glory days of Shanghai and the Hi-Pi movement. So we're standing in front of some of the highest, the most modern buildings in China. And whilst those are all here, Shanghai has amongst the biggest collection of Art Deco and heritage buildings in the world. It's part of the city's fabric, it's part of the city's cultural identity, and the government's really, in the last few years, put a lot of effort into ensuring those continue to be here and are used in the best way possible. Well, the Peace Hotel is huge. So it was built in 1929 when Shanghai was at its peak. This was, without question, the most glamorous hotel in Shanghai. This is where any celebrities would have stayed, and it also represented the height of Art Deco design in the late 20s. Art Deco in Shanghai is pretty different from what you might find, for example, in Miami or New York. And one of the distinguishing features is that a lot of the designers and architects here, they included symbols and motifs from the Ming Dynasty and the Qing Dynasty, and that really gave Shanghai Art Deco a really unique Asian flavor.
So Sam, tell me about where we're at and the street we're on.
Well, the street we're on is called Yuan Ming Yuan Lu, which means road in Chinese. So this, back in the day, would have been one of the most important, most central parts of Shanghai. Lots of the most famous associations, companies, they all would have been based here. Between the 20s and now, the buildings fell into disrepair, but about 5 years ago, they were restored. So you find some of the most significant heritage architecture in this part of town.
So they're really taking advantage of reclaiming these buildings and using the Art Deco as a theme. Like they're going into speakeasies that sort of feel like you're in the 40s, and there's great little corner bars and restaurants like this, right?
Shanghai's nightlife is really kicking again, and these buildings are being taken over by people who want to open great bars, and a lot of them are using themes from the 20s and 30s, drinks from the 20s and 30s, and even picking dishes that might have been eaten back in the 20s and 30s.
So tell me a little bit about the big brown building behind us.
The brown building behind us is the Broadway Mansions. So that once was an apartment building, would have been one of the most expensive in the city. Now it's a hotel, so tourists can stay there too. There's a real energy today in Shanghai that must have existed back in the 20s and 30s. And a lot of these restaurants, these bars, they're using ingredients, they're using cocktail recipes that would have existed back then, and they're interpreting them in modern ways. So it's a theme that we see again back from the 20s and 30s still in Shanghai today.
I think it's pretty fantastic. Thanks for showing me.
Cheers.
Hi-Pi culture can be found in Shanghai virtually everywhere today, from the architecture, stunning buildings, beautiful fashion, to the art that's alive and well in the city today. In modern China, Hi-Pi culture is an attractive element that lives on. When you think of Shanghai, you probably think of the glory days of around 100 years ago, when this was a city of jazz and Art Deco and dance halls, high fashion, and a blending of cultures as only Shanghai can do. The Mandarin Oriental Pudong has combined with the VB Fine Arts Lounge and created an exhibit that takes you back to those days of old. The light in this painting just draws you into a different era. And what an era it was for Shanghai. This was a time when artists, writers, and romantics gathered from all corners of the world to create magic. Some of it was fleeting, but some of it, like the art, furniture, and fashion, had a lasting effect. Hi-Pi culture is really not just one thing. It's not the great fashion or the literature or the brilliant artwork that came from that time. It was a collaboration and a moment in time in the city of Shanghai, and it's really excellently reflected in the architecture, the Art Deco that can be found throughout the city.
This loud, crazy city is so much busier today than it was back then, but some things remain the same.
The Cathay Cinema, for example, is a real symbol of Shanghai, and that's been a very well-known piece of architecture throughout the years. It was the cutting-edge cinema of its day. It had more than 1,000 seats, and all the first-run films would show there. It's still a really important cinema in Shanghai, and it's a really proud symbol of the city today.
The 1920s and 1930s in Shanghai. Eras like this never truly leave us, and you can see evidence of that in things like furniture, Art Deco, and buildings throughout the city.
Many trend-setting things in fashion, such as stunning embroidery, the modern Qipao dress, emerged in Shanghai at the beginning of the 19th century, along with many firsts in literature and the arts for China. Shanghai takes real pride in this.
The Baptist Christian Publishing House is a really stunning piece of Art Deco architecture. One of the most significant things about it is that it was designed by an architect called Laszlo Hudek. He is the most celebrated architect from Shanghai's 20s and 30s and is responsible for probably more significant buildings from that era than anyone else. Haipai is about sophistication and about being at the forefront. Shanghai in the 20s and 30s rose from a small city to being one of the most sophisticated cities in the world. Shanghainese people are still proud of that today, and Haipai to them represents being at the forefront of China and at the forefront of Chinese culture and technology.
The spirit of Haipai is still alive and well in Shanghai today. Sure, it's a cultural phenomenon that started decades ago, that as you walk through these streets, you can feel the essence in the people, the culture, the architecture, and the art. For Beautiful China, I'm Ellen Douglas.